What is up, world? Bakerman Brad here, and today we're going to be taking a quick look at the war to end all wars. I'm talking about Tom Clancy's EndWar Online. And if you're ready to terminate some peeps and have a little bit of fun on a browser-based strategy game, this is the one for you. Let's do this. And of course, there will be explosions. Alrighty gamers, the first thing I want to point out is kind of the most obvious. This is going to be a slower paced game. Now, it's a real-time strategy, mostly against AIs. Now, there is a live player versus player in the Wargame section, which we'll get to a little bit, but there's also one of 3 campaigns that I'm showing you right now that you can choose. Now, you can only do one campaign at a time. There is the US, the Russian, and the European campaigns, and they actually do factor into what it is that you're going to be able to do in the Fortress multiplayer section, but we'll talk about that when we get there. Right now, the setup of the game is you choose particular commanders that have certain units under their command to send into battle against whatever AI defenses are set up. Now, once you get into the game, there's going to be a very simple several lanes. You deploy your troops and try to destroy their troops and eventually destroy their base. Or, in some missions, defend yours for an allotted amount of time. Now, when you're getting started, there are some control points that will help benefit you in the field. There are energy nodes, artillery sections, bunkers, supply depots that only artillery sections can hit, and a couple other little things like that. Now, there are airstrikes, tanks, just a whole bunch of things that will actually factor into what you're needing to bring in terms of defending or attacking certain areas. And so, as you saw at the very beginning of this, you did get to see what this AI had, but for the most part, it's a rock, paper, scissors game. It's also, like I said, a little slow, so we're going to speed this up just a little bit to also a tune of their fancy epic music. Yeah. While it's doing that, though, I'm going to keep explaining that the basic concept is certain units will suppress other units better and will be destroyed by other units better. Kind of obvious. Anti-aircraft destroys aircraft. Aircraft destroys tanks. Tanks destroys anti-aircraft. Rock, paper, scissors right there, or if you wanted to throw in Lizard and Spock, you can include the airstrikes and or air intercept and a bunch of other things like that. Now, after you destroy everything, including the shielded turrets, you will be able to terminate the base. However, if you get one lane open, kind of like I have here on the right side, you can actually use your skills and your tanks to blow up the base before destroying the other objectives in another lane. So you have to keep in mind, especially if in the Wargame section you're fighting a real person, watch your flanks. Now, these units do have skills and abilities that are based off of those skills, which I'm about to show you here in a second, but right now we gotta terminate this guy. Like I said, there's gonna be a lot of terminating. Anyways, once you get back done with that, you're in your HQ, which has a little bit of an empire builder feel to it, where you can go and upgrade certain zones that will benefit that unit in the overall scheme of if you're in single player or multiplayer Fortress. Now, there's also the search and reward recovery area where you can go and for free a couple of times with energy search for whatever little trinkets that are out there. You can get some of the commanders, you can get these command training manuals and a couple other things, and there's also the gold version. But one of the things you have to keep in mind is these zones can only be upgraded one at a time. Now, once you get a commander in whatever area you're at, the layout's pretty simple. You've got several different ones, and they have their attack systems, defense systems, armor, and their main primary weapon, which are kind of straightforward. They are in charge of whatever that is they're doing. Now, you can rank up your commanders, and with each rank, they get an additional skill or buff to that skill. Now, like I said, you can only get one at a time, but here's where the trick is. If you have VIP access, they give you extra gold. Now, you can still get gold rather fast, and all of these items will eventually have blueprints, materials, training manuals, stuff like that, but I don't think you ever get a commander out of this. Now, the black market, same thing, still gold. Fortress, you have to use the Fortress tokens, and Wargame, you have to use Wargame tokens. I haven't found anything where you can buy Fortress or Wargame tokens with gold, but there is a lot of abilities to buy gold. I mean, you have plenty of chances to do that. That's where they're going to make their money, because I don't really have very much stuff right now. And to get beyond level 15, you kind of need some high-level commanders. Now, you can't really see anything in the layout. They're kind of blocked. It's unfortunate. They're still working on that. But let's go ahead and talk about the wargaming section, because this is where there's going to be some speed to it. Now, in Wargame, they actually give you a random selection of all of the commanders, and then you get to pick 3 of those. Now, in that, you have to be very careful on which commanders you choose. So, take the time to read the skills and figure out what unit you're actually choosing. You can choose more than one of the same type of unit, like you can have 3 tanks. But you don't really necessarily need that, because if you keep it diverse, that's how you're going to be able to counter other people. Now, with that said, every commander is actually going to be the 5-star ranked best commander you can get, fully upgraded and ready to go, with absolutely nothing to do with your single player campaign. So, the Wargame section is very, very fair, minus the potential of chance. Now, after you choose all 6 of your commanders, you go in there and you find a match, and sometimes it's fast, other times it's a little slow. Now, in this, you want to make sure that you understand the rules. You go until you have won 9 games or have lost 3 games. In this setup, yes, it kind of looks like a MOBA with your 3 lanes there, but there is no jungle, so don't worry about that. You don't have to worry about getting gold or fighting with a fire giant, anything like that. Don't worry. But you do have to worry about figuring out what the other people are sending, because if you notice up top, they're just a question mark. So that's why you want to have some diversity, because you don't know what they brought. Now, in this, there are some things that at least they let you know about, like air raids and air interception. So, with that, there is some pretty good warnings to see what's about to happen to the troops that you've sent, but it's kind of still going to be, once you've set them on their way, they're on their way. And the first waves are definitely on their way to their death. That's kind of how it is. There's not really any options to that. Now, if you just barely noticed the red circle growing in the bottom right corner here, you're probably in good company, because neither did this guy. And that's why you have to be very careful in the live action stuff, because you can get flanked pretty hard, especially if you find a nice little artillery area. But by the time you actually counter that, sometimes it's just a little bit too late. And as you can see here, it's game over, bro, Chacho. I told you there was going to be explosions. Now, if you can't find a match and you're running out of things to do, you can go into the fortress mode if you have the energy to do so. Now, you want to set up your defense whenever you're offline to have whatever commanders controlled by an AI get deployed. Now, it's actually rather intelligent in terms of a reactive defensive mode. It doesn't seem to deploy anything until an attacker has actually deployed something. And actually, I'll show you that whenever we go and attack things. But it's based on a rank system. And as you go and rank up, you can take the exact rank of someone you challenge. So in that, you want to find out the people here, what star general they are, what kind of power they're bringing to this, and then choose who you want to try to take. Because there's not really a loss to if you lose. Now, normally, you will not be able to see what they have, except you do get 2 free recons in this Wargame fight, in the Fortress fight, my apologies. And after the 2, you're going in blind. So if you have the resources, or if you have the ability to buy more recon, VIP, cash shop, then you can actually counter them better. Now this is the point where I can tell you that the cash shop and the options of this can get a little bit broken, because the Fortress mode is heavily reliant on the single player mode. You bring in what you've earned. So if you have 5-star generals, you can go in to fight with those 5-star generals and rank yourself up really fast. So you could jump right into that if you wanted to spend a bunch of money and be able to really kind of just crush the beginning levels. Now granted, once you get to the top tier, it'll balance out and it'll be fair again, but you gotta worry about getting there first. If you're not gonna be spending money, you're gonna have a bit of a grind. Now, like I said, there are 3 campaigns. However, you have to choose one, and then the other 2 are locked until you get to level 20 on the first one, and then level 40 And so that's another part where you might have some grind, because the difficulty kind of ramps up significantly, like I said, after you get to level 15, and that's again where buying the fame from the VIP section will really help. Now, to calm your fears, I can say that from faction to faction, they are very balanced. It's not going to be like one of them has a extreme advantage, so play the campaign that interests you the most. Don't worry about bringing in something particular, because I mean, if the Russian groups had giant warbears that just knocked everything over, yeah, I'd tell you to totally go with the Russian campaign first. But unfortunately, they don't have giant warbears. I know, sad day. But with a few final notes, I want to point out a couple of things. The black border around this is actually the maxed out view. So whenever you have a full screen going on, you're going to have that border. And then also the fame, energy, and gold is kind of hidden by the taskbar at the very top of it. And so they've got some polishing up to do in the layout of things. But overall, the mechanics of the actual gameplay is very solid. Keep in mind, it's just been released, so it's still pretty new. They got some work to do, but they've got a pretty good backing, and there's going to be a very entertaining game to play if you just have something to kill some time. If you were playing something else and had some wait time, bam, here you go. It's not going to take very long. Most of the matches are about 5 minutes. I mean, if you spend anything longer than that, no one's been doing anything. You'd probably just be looking at each other. But with all of that said, if you liked the video, hit the like button. If you like Tom Clancy and anything else they do and you want to play this game, well, hit the like button as well. If you haven't, hit the subscribe button. And other than that, that's all I've got for you. However, there is going to be more on the MMOHuts profile page, so check that bad boy out. With that said, you guys need to get out there and start blowing up some peeps with some giant missile barrages. And gamers, I'm going to let you get back to gaming.